Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live. And real quick before we get started here on some things going on with Israel and Syria and the region and some of the political opinions of those things that are happening, I wanted to share with you that on our Patreon channel, patreon.com/Israeli News Live, I just released an in-depth look on some of the mysteries that are hidden inside the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Genesis scroll. They call it apocryphal, and I really feel like that's a horrible thing to call it, but that's what they call it. Also, in 5 minutes left, how did Sarah and Abraham really look? I go into that on that channel there. You may enjoy watching that little short take of it. But I do revisit this on Patreon in a much deeper way, and I also go into on our Patreon channel about the Genesis thing there. What was the modern state of Israel back during the days of Abraham and Sarah? Who were Abraham and Sarah really? What was this strange connection? Goes back all the way back to Genesis. When I say Genesis, going all the way back to Adam and Eve. I may even go into that deeper still yet later because it's a fascinating look to say the very least there. But I want to go ahead. I'll start off our first video right here that I saw there. This round looking orb looking thing there flying through the air right over the border of Syria and Israel there. I'm kind of familiar with that area location that they're showing on that satellite imagery there. And we've seen these before. But I quite frankly believe this is something that Israel has developed. How they make a ball fly through the air like that nonstop, like a drone, I don't know. But I do believe that that is Israeli technology. Or it could be a UAP or a UFO. Anyway, it's taken by an MQ-9 in the Middle East, Syria-Israel border, exhibiting anonymous behavior. The object remains unidentified, according to Kyle here on Twitter there. Also, I wanted to share with you, it says here, the Chinese Year of the Snake. Israel is secretly expanding. They are now building a military base just 40 kilometers from Damascus, which, by the way, they say 40 kilometers from Damascus. That's really closer to the Israeli border, although it's clearly inside Syrian territory. In fact, if you look at that biblically, technically the entire Golan belongs to Syria. That is a biblical fact going into the Old Testament, New Testament, both. It was Syrian territory, the Golan, what we call the Golan Heights, and now Israel is even taking more of that land as a result there. So they are in the process building a base there inside of Syria. Now, so far, they're just using temporary type of buildings that could be dismantled and moved out of there. But I have a feeling it's not going to be that way. It's going to only expand even greater and greater. With that being said there, though, I want to play some of the politicians. This is an Irish politician here really going after Israel, and it's not just the Irish, it'll be the British, it'll be the Spanish, and quite frankly all over the world. They're condemning the actions that have been happening by Israel, whether it be to the Palestinians in Gaza or the West Bank or even Lebanon and Syria. Listen to what this Richard Barrett has to say here.
Why do you continue to peddle the notion that Israel is interested in peace? When everything it's doing is making it clear it's involved in massive terrorist ethnic cleansing to drive the Palestinians out of Gaza, out of the West Bank, to expand the borders of Israel, as it's been doing every single year since 1948. Apartheid, because that's what the Israeli system is, doesn't have a right to defend itself, any more than apartheid South Africa did. Illegal occupation doesn't have the right to defend itself. Ethnic cleansing, or a state built on ethnic cleansing, doesn't have a right to defend itself. The people who have the right to defend themselves are the people who are victims of those things. Who are the victims? Who are the oppressed here? The Palestinians are. They're the ones being ethnically cleansed. They're the people at the wrong end of apartheid. They're the ones under illegal occupation. They're the ones who've been killed with impunity for years and years and years.
I mean, that is one brave man. Richard Barrett, there, an Irish politician. The Irish have actually been braver in speaking out against the crimes that Israel is doing And by the way, this is no means of all Israelis are bad. And also, too, there was a very fascinating video there. Let me see if I can find it for you real quick. Oh, goodness. It was an amazing... let's see here. This is... Let me think of how to look this up again. Okay, hostages. There were several girls released in Gaza, from Gaza, and one particular video that came out about this was a little bit very interesting. The girls that were there, let's see how Israelis reacted to the latest hostages released. Now, obviously, you know, you would think that when they're being paraded by Hamas, that they're just doing this for show. But one thing, though, you have to admit, though, and that is they were actually in very good condition. They weren't in poor condition, like starved to death or anything like that, especially under the conditions that they were having to live in. They were actually in fairly good condition there. So
شكرا لكتابك السام
and
كل
then the other
المعاملة
thing was that was
الكويسة.
interesting is in that over a year's time, about a year and a half, they've all learned to speak Arabic quite fluently, and I thought that was interesting there. They do talk about, at least from the Arabic side there, that they were very afraid during all these bombings that the Israelis were doing that they would actually die during that time. Now, I'm still waiting to see how are they going to respond once we get to hear from them. Right now, they're being debriefed. They're being kept in Israeli hospital undergoing psychology and things like that. And you know, so I have to kind of wait to see what they end up saying in the future. The Israelis may not really give them a chance to really speak their real minds about that, and that's concerning. But let's hope that they do speak what really did happen, because being a hostage is no pleasant thing, period. I don't care if their captors were decent to them or not. Still, it is a horrible thing to go through, and I do not condone the taking of hostages as Hamas did. Anyway, moving on though, somewhat more, this is another lady here from Spain, a politician here, and of course
el terrible
it's
silencio
in
mediático
Spanish, so it's
de todos
not,
los medios
and I
occidentales
don't
sobre lo
have
que
the
Israel
English
está haciendo
subtitles
en
for
Siria,
this one here,
aprovechándose
but
de la
according to
terrible
this, it says this is
inestabilidad
what
en este
terrorist state
país.
of Israel is doing in
Israel está
Syria. We must
bombardeando
continue to
distintas
expose
poblaciones
the deafening
que son las
silence of
imágenes que nos
Western
llegan
media
desde
in the
Turquía.
face of
Son
Israel's criminal
absolutamente
expansionist
espeluznantes cuando los
agenda
medios
there.
occidentales.
And of course, that explosion there took place right, I think that was like around January the 4th that happened. So we have that there. We have this politician here speaking out
Simon
also.
Cephas or Simon Peter to Christians. I know that may come as a surprise to many Christians who believe Simon Peter is buried under the Basilica of St. Peter's in Rome. But local tradition among both Muslims and Christians locally is that he didn't go to Rome. We are half a mile away from occupied Palestine, and people here believe that he died here where he lived and that this is his tomb. It was a place
Or what's left of
greatly
it.
revered by local people until it was destroyed by Israel in the recent occupation of Lebanon.
And this is exactly what Israel does. There is absolutely no respect whatsoever for churches, mosque, or anything. They just do not care. So Craig Murray, God bless him for going there and covering this. I'll have to try to reach out to him and see if I can get him on with us here. Richard Bergen, also an MP member in the British Parliament. Listen to what he says here.
Israel is ignoring international law, ignoring the world's top court's rulings, ignoring the United Nations, and let's be totally frank, Israel is ignoring everything that the government says. So if the ministry is serious about getting Israel to stop its genocidal war, then the government must act, and that must mean widespread sanctions. That means ending all arms exports, including the parts for the jets bombing Gaza. It means sanctions on trade with Israel. The minister says that we are even-handed when it comes to international humanitarian law and international law. So I asked the minister a very specific question. The government has imposed widespread sanctions on Russia for its war crimes. Why won't the government do the same for Israel's war crimes?
Here, here, I agree. Couldn't agree more there. I don't know if this is the same thing or not. Let me listen to this one real quick. I think it's the same thing.
In Gaza, even though their homes have been reduced to rubble by the Israeli forces. Of course, it's important that we do everything we can to rebuild Gaza, but justice for war crimes is also vitally important. So will the minister agree with me that we must stand up to all those who wish to undermine the International Criminal Court investigations and do all we can to ensure justice is done?
Now, here's the thing. Richard Bergen, if you go to his site, though, he's not anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. He actually was just here during Holocaust Memorial Day there. And he says, reminder, the 6 million Jewish people brutally murdered in the Holocaust, and all the Roma, LGBT, disabled, and other people killed by the Nazis. And we commit to ensuring never again. But you notice, though, he doesn't leave out other people that the Nazis killed as well. So he was for the good things there. And like I said, he's not anti-Jewish. He is anti-apartheid, the evils that are being committed by Israel. Not all of Israel, mind you, but by the Israeli government that is supporting the destruction of Gaza, the destruction of Lebanon, the West Bank, and even that of Syria. This has become the most heinous crimes that you could ever imagine in modern times. And biblically, God condemned it. Moses condemned it. Moses condemned that we never oppress the fatherless, which is a child with no father, the mother, the widow, etc. He says for us not to oppress them, that we were oppressed people. And yet the Holocaust taught the Jewish people of Israel nothing about oppression. Did not our forefathers who died in the Holocaust, myself and our own family, Auschwitz, Dachau, does that not have any memory to the people of Israel to know that the sufferings that were done there, that we should not do this to the Palestinians that are or to the Lebanese or to the Syrians for that matter, especially after we made a promise to Laban, our forefather Jacob made that promise to Laban never to cross over that heap to do harm to him or vice versa. And the very mothers of Israel, and I don't just say Leah and Rebekah, but Bela and Hilda as well, the 4 mothers of Israel were all Syrians. Do we forget that the Syrian people then are our kindred? And yet you went in there and you put a terrorist to rule the nation. Do you forget that Paul, when he was on his road to Damascus to wipe out the church there in Damascus, that God forbade him, that Jesus came and stopped him? But here in modern days, the Christians, Zionists, have supported the destruction of Damascus and the killing of the Christians that live there as well. It's a shame what I see today and what's happening. Take a listen to our Patreon channel. Go join there. Sign up. Be a Patreon. You can do it for as little as $1, but we really would appreciate those that could do at least $5 or more, because those are the people that support the broadcast everywhere we do. It is from our patrons. And if you want to also support, if you just like to do a one-time contribution or something like that, you could go to IsraeliNewsLive.org. You can support there. Danun Institute, P.O. Box 156, Sunbright, Tennessee 37872, or Stephen Ben-Nun, either way, or you can click right there and donate online. This also, A Family Search for Answers, an amazing video there with Dr. Liz there that came on with my wife to discuss the tragedy that happened to her father, and she goes into the shocking truth of what really happened. I'm Steve Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Thank you for listening. Also, tomorrow we have Greg coming on, Colonel Greg Renshit. It'll be airing on Patreon as well. So if you want to be able to watch that on Patreon, sign up tonight because he'll be on Patreon tomorrow. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Thank you for listening and have a blessed day.